This week in landscaping, it's September 8th. We're just going to talk about a couple things here. First, we're going to start with Star Jasmine. Some couple other things. We're just real short today. Star Jasmine is one of my personal favorites. This is the side of my front door. I've got it on both sides of my front door. We just put it in this year, so it's just getting established. But even in the first month, less than a month, it's already put on like 12 plus inches of growth. Star Jasmine used to be called Confederate Jasmine, but that is bad marketing these days. So we don't call it Confederate Jasmine anymore. We call it Star Jasmine. Or there's another kind of Southern Jasmine, I think, is another thing people call it. It is a climbing vine. It can be used as a ground cover, but primarily used as a climbing vine. Has little white star-shaped flowers. Late spring, early summer. Does better in sun for that. I've got a lot of shade in my front yard, so we'll see if it actually ends up with a bunch of blooms. But it is for sure growing in this area. What we do as a family is I put in masonry screws straight into the gaps in the brick, and on both sides of this pillar, and then take fishing line and run it kind of in a box X across. And then as it grows higher and higher, I add to it. So you can't really see the fishing line. Um, I have had uh, issues in the past where the fishing line broke and it kind of messes up your um, pattern. And so wire is for sure more durable, but fishing line, you can't see it, which is really fun and nice when you first start. And so what I do as a middle ground between is I do like three strands of fishing line between each of the masonry screws. Um, what my father-in-law does, which is really great, is he uses those like metal square fence pieces, cuts those to shape, and then takes masonry screws, screws those in, and wires those pieces exactly where he wants them. Super durable. It looks pretty good. And once it's grown in, it looks fantastic. He's got some areas in his yard that have grown in for the last 5 years or so, and it looks amazing. Um, really smell really great when they're in bloom. This can like make a whole yard smell good. Very good screening plant if you're trying to use it on like a metal fence. It can pretty well. It's not gonna make it impossible to see through the fence, but it's gonna do a really good job of screening. Um, and vines are just fun. Last note, I had some at my old house on a corner that was probably the coldest corner on the house. I was most exposed to wind and had the least protection. Um, and it was really hard every single winter when the coldest freeze would do a lot of damage to it. And so if you're going to use this, just be careful. You got a little bit of protection so that it doesn't die back all the way to the ground during a really cold snap. Otherwise, it's super hardy and will turn out all right there. That's Star Jasmine. Also, I had this cool picture. I was looking back. This moth was huge. I mean, like this big. It's got the eyes and everything. Now my 2-year-old, every time he runs outside, not every time, sometimes when he runs outside, he runs around the corner and yells, "Moth!" looking for this guy. And I thought that was pretty cute. Okay, I have this video here of an MP rotor, or if you're someone that calls them an MP rotator nozzle. This is in my yard. I don't know if you can hear this, it doesn't matter, but I just want you to see what it's doing. You see how it's kind of like doing this? We call it like fingers. It just makes it easier to look like it's spinning. Now, a couple notes here just on how these things work and the reason I'm showing them. First, I had some hot spots in my yard. What does a hot spot look like? What does that mean? We're finally, and we've gotten so much rain, and the weather's been so great this summer that we've had. Very fortunate in our irrigation, but my yard is finally seeing some hot spots. These are the areas that I can just, even before I turn on the irrigation system, I can just tell that area is not getting as much water. It's getting water because it's not dead, but it's not getting as much water as the areas around it. And so what happens is maybe there's just like a little a knot or a head is like angled just a little bit off, or the design of the yard makes it to where a head can't really cover this one area very well. That's something. Or maybe there's all of the yard is getting double covered, like this, but then one area is only getting single coverage, so it's getting half as much water, and so you're not running it as much in that area. Well, there's ways to fix that from an adjustment perspective. But that was making me run my system real quick to see it. Now, obviously, my team checks this pretty regularly, and so it's in really good shape. But what happens, even if you're not checking it, like even if you're only checking it every few months, is you'll end up with heads like this that are clogged, and all you have to do is just kind of like tap them, and it cleans them out. But if you don't do that, it'll just stay frozen like this. You won't ever move. And they won't do the fingers like this. They'll just do the fingers like this. And the reason that's an issue, and the way that this is designed, is each one of these strands, just like our fingers, is a little bit shorter or longer. So one of them is shooting out to 20 feet. One of them is shooting out to 5 feet. And so as it goes around, it's getting that whole area. But it has to do like a full circle to get all of the area in front of it. The reason it does this is for water efficiency. If you end up with a rotor that's going, or a spray that's going, it has a lot of misting that gets blown off, or it's not as evenly distributed. And so these are some of the newer technologies in the industry that allows the water to seep into the ground in a much more efficient way, which means you don't have to use as much water. Now, you have to realize, though, is you have to run these things for a lot longer than either of the other heads, because it's only spraying the area right in front of you once per rotation. And you can see, if you watch it again, it's really not rotating very quickly. So, like, this stream um, that went around is only going to hit that little 4 foot area every time it rotates around once. Um, so, these are really cool. They're really good from a water conservation perspective. These are kind of some of the heads that you can get some like rebates for and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure. Um, but you have to put them in. These can replace other heads, by the way, and you have to know how to use them in a way that's not going to put you in trouble. You don't want to do a 15-minute run on your spray heads and then a 15-minute run on these, because that'll put you in trouble. Conversely, you don't want to know that you do this for 45 minutes and then do the spray head for 45 minutes. That'll waste a ton of water. One last thing I'll say is I have a smart controller, and even smart controllers take a little bit of thinking. Um, what my system does is it doesn't run if it's gotten a lot of rain. Now we've gotten a lot of rain, a lot of instances of rain in the last bit here. But like last week, I was looking at this. Like this is Austin. Austin's right here. We had less than a quarter inch. This is the last 5 days. So we've had some like third of inches, half of inches. Out here way west, we had 2 inches. But what my system did is it shut down because it knew we got some rain. So it didn't run this morning, even though my area down here got a quarter inch and it really needs kind of an inch. So you have to override that still, or you have to change the settings. So if you have a smart controller, make sure you're changing the settings to work in that way. And that's all I got this week. Let us know if you have any questions. Happy to address them. Cheers.